Hello everyone, welcome back. Well, not welcome back. This is my first Age of Empires video. So, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the video. Welcome to most of you probably hearing my voice for the first time. I did do a very, very short stint on Twitch as a caster, but being at 3 a.m, there wasn't much casting I could do, waking people up in the house, so I gave that up quickly. Anyway, not what you're here for. Reviewing the Warlords 4 format is why you're here. There's a lot of thoughts about this, so I thought I'd make a video. It might be a little bit better. I'm pretty passionate about formats. I've got that whole competitive rating thing going, trying to see what the best format for viewership is, and now we've got these issues coming up during Warlords that we can address. So I'm going to dive right into it, but before we do, I think it's, congrats to Hera, and you can see the click to add text. Obviously, this is not something I'm used to doing, making these videos. So definitely going to need to clean this up, which I know how to do. It's just I've sized things properly at the moment, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. But yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, congrats to Hera, champion. 12 in a row. I thought it was 13, but I accidentally included a team tournament. So congrats to Hera on his victory and reign of dominance. And if you think he's the GOAT, I'm a Viper fanboy, so I might disagree with you, but he's definitely in the conversation, and I wouldn't argue with you if you said he was. But what was the format? So with Warlords, then the rules in question are on the screen now, and it's the tiebreakers. So tiebreakers, if it was between two players, it would go by the number of match wins in the series between the players involved. So essentially, did you win your set against the player? If it's between three players, it stays the same, which is where the messiness comes from, given that there's only 4 players in the group. But we'll get onto that. The second tiebreaker, if it's all equal, would be the game difference in matches between the players involved. Now, I have a slight issue with the wording of this handbook, and it's that they're using match wins and matches instead of sets. I think the standard, if you look at tennis, it's game, set, and match. When you win an individual, a single 1v1, I wouldn't call that a set. And the thing before a match is set. Game, set, and then match. So I have an issue with calling it a match. Personally, I would call an individual 1v1 a game, and then I would call, when you win multiples of those, a set. Age of Empires doesn't have a format where you can go to calling things matches or calling things points. They're games and sets, in my opinion, and I think standardizing it is important to make sure there's no confusion in the community. But just so you know, if I say set, I mean match. And if I say match, I usually mean match if I'm reading it, but I could mean game. So sorry about any confusion. So the difference in matches between the involved players, the difference in sets between the involved players, I think, right? I have that right. And then the difference in all matches for the group. So if you're in a tiebreaker for the bottom 3, your result against the best player or the best performing player in the group wouldn't count unless these two couldn't break the tie. Number 4 would be the most game 1 wins from matches between the players involved. So again, game, right? The next word should be set, not match. So most game 1 wins from matches between the involved players. I don't know why you would focus on game 1. Most game 1 wins from matches in the group. Again, I don't know why you would focus on game 1. Surely the decider games would be more important if it got to that. Tournament seeding at the start of the group stage is the final tiebreaker. And I guess seeding does have to come into it. You can have your issues with the seeding, but this is the tiebreakers that we've got. What happened? So why is this a controversy? Well, there's one main one, but I also wanted to mention that DauT actually forfeited a set because we had a situation where he couldn't succeed anymore. and that to me was not ideal. I think it was the right thing to do by letting DauT stop his set. I think it was only natural that if it's pointless and he's not going to try, that we're not forced to sit through that. The bigger issue for a lot of people is Sitaux throwing a set. And that's caused a lot of controversy. So let's get going. I've already touched on DauT a little bit. And due to the format, after being up 2-1, DauT resigns. DauT needed a 3-0 victory to progress. As soon as Mihai won a game, DauT said, look, there's no point in playing. Nothing changes. So why should we keep playing? And to the admin's credit, they stopped the set. I think that was the right call, given the situation. But I think it's important to try to limit these situations as much as possible. You're never going to eliminate them, but I think there's a way to reduce the likelihood of them happening. And then we have the Big Daddy. The Sitaux versus Vinch versus Sitaux. Now, the reason you would want to throw this set is because, now I'm doing this off memory, I should be better prepared. I made this whole slideshow and now I've forgotten what happens, but I'm pretty sure the winner of this would face ACCM and then Hera if they beat ACCM, and the loser of this would face Mihai and then Tatito. So all due respect to Tato and Mihai, Hera is the best player in the world, and ACCM is pretty good as well. So there is clearly a draw that you would prefer. And to get that draw, you'd have to lose. And that's what Sitaux ensured happened. He lost that set to ensure an easier run for him for the tournament. Now, looking at the format a little bit wider, there was 3 qualifications, a main event, and when you skip through that, 4 invited players, obviously, and then the other 12 come through the 3 qualifiers, 4 in each qualifier. You need to get the makeup of the group. This is where I have my biggest concern with going for the format that they did. The random seeding doesn't suit the rest of the format. And I shouldn't say random seeding, it should be the random drawing of the seeded players. So if you seed a 1 to 4 and then you randomly place them into groups, there is a situation where you have seed 4, seed 5, seed 9, and seed 10 in a group. That's what happens if you do random seeding. And due to the randomness of the group creation, unfortunately, it led to major issues with the tiebreakers that they had before. Obviously due to a number of other things as well. I don't think the tiebreakers are the strongest tiebreakers you could have or the most well thought out, but that should be something we look at a little bit later. The event is played using the round-robin format with 16 players divided into 4 groups. The groups will be drawn, with each group consisting of 1 player from the different pools, blah, 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 and that's how we see it. Again, another thing I should have looked up is how the players were seeded. Was it just the 4 players from Qualifier 3 were seeded bottom 4? I should have checked that. Regardless, though, we're not talking about the seeding. We're talking about the format and how players is distributed once they're already seeded. So I have major issues with randomizing the seeding, but randomizing the group, but that being the only time you include randomization. So what are those issues? Doesn't reward winning. Too many of those tiebreakers don't reward winning the most amount of games, so individual maps. It actually incentivizes losing. I think you can have the next thing, which is dead rubbers, still an issue, but you can have them. What you can't have is incentivized losing. There are a number of different leagues on the planet that incentivize losing. You look at leagues with drafts. Some teams will throw towards the end of a season to get better draft picks. That doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean that it's okay for us to accept it either. Why are there issues? Well, not enough sets and players for the format. If you're going to have the types of tiebreakers they had, you need more than 4 people in a group, and you need less than 3 of them progressing. When only one player drops out, having a round-robin format where every player plays each other with only 4 players in the group is a poor format to have. You could have expanded the tournament slightly, gone to 18 with groups of 6, and that would have been a lot better. A lot better. Now, obviously, you'd have to spread the price pool a little bit thinner, but... Excuse me, just having a drink. But you would have added more weight to the tiebreakers as they were. Too much randomization. So earlier I said for this format, they've added 1 layer of randomization and the rest is based on performance. That's too much. If you're going to randomize, you need to randomize more. You can't just randomize the groups and then leave it as it is. A little bit more on that a little bit later. An artificial increasing of sets, like I said, round robin, is different to players face off. Then you have winner v winner, loser v loser. Loser v loser, loser goes out, winner v winner, winner stays on to play the winner of the loser v loser to progress. That's not the case here. We've got an artificial increase of sets for viewership, which you can do, but the artificial part is the bad part. You need to have a meaning behind those sets. You need to have a competitive reason to have the round robin beyond we want more games. If you want more games, you need to increase the player size and then you need to increase the group size. Go 3 groups of 6. You're going to need 8 players progressing to have a best of 8. So you've got 6 groups. The top from there go. The players finishing 2nd and 3rd can have their own little playoff, and the top 2 from those playoffs would progress to the top 8. And that's how you get... Sorry, the top 2 from each group. Oh, this is getting complicated. Top 2 players from the 3 groups progress into the top 8. The players coming 3rd play off to find themselves into the top 8. So the top 2 players would progress there. So you'd have 1 player dropping out from that. Just a suggestion. Fixes though for what I said. So not enough sets or players. Increase the group sizes. Go to 6. Have 18 total players. You know, you could keep 4, add 2 players into each group. Reduce too much randomization. You need to reduce the impact of the draw. That I gave an earlier one where it's you need more randomization, but the easiest way to do it is to reduce that impact. Put it just on seeding, not on seeding and then randomization. If you're going to have randomization for the groups, you then need to have randomization on the playoffs. So instead of predetermining winner of Group A will play the 3rd place, or the winner of 2nd and 3rd from groups 4 and 3, you've got to have a randomization in that where you draw the 2nd and 3rd games to go on to play the 1st place player. If you just have the draw for the groups but not for the progression, then there's not enough randomization. People can manipulate it because you've created bias in the sample. I know that sounds weird. How does randomization create bias? But we don't have the sample size for that when you've got Hera and Viper and all that together in the same group. But Tati at 5th is so close and can beat most of those players. You can't have them separated like that. More sets, stronger reasoning. So if you are going to increase the sets, you can't artificially do it. You need more players to create that round robin, and you need to have a stronger reasoning for those sets. Right? So why are you playing that that third round robin round? What's the reasoning for it? What does it add in terms of the competitiveness and the fairness? It adds nothing except watch time. So just, if you're going to increase it, make it more competitive, add more players. That's a way to increase it without doing it artificially. Now, it's a fine line, right? It's a grey area, because if you increase it artificially, if you say you're increasing it artificially, that could be used for increasing players. If you go to player 52, that's an artificial increase of sets. Not most people won't be looking at that. That's evidenced by the qualifiers. So, yes, you can artificially increase sets by artificially increasing the amount of players. But if you increase the players with reason, I'm pretty sure we all agree that some very good players missed out. If you had those players, then you would have had more intense sets and a better reasoning for progression and playing those extra sets. This was not a very good video. I said a lot of things I didn't quite say properly, so I've got this to round it off. The drawing from the hat felt like a wannabe FIFA system. The FIFA system is corrupt. It's also on a different scale to Warlords. It's hard for FIFA to seed teams because they don't play as often. International teams in football don't play as often as what our pro players do. And it's a team system. Players could get injured for those teams and could change the strength of those teams. But in a 1v1, that doesn't happen. The player's either there or they're not. Now, you could have Viper's wrist, but that would reflect in his performances. I also want to touch on Vinchester. I understand what Vinchester did, but people are praising him for valuing the set against Sitaux and ridiculing Sitaux for valuing the tournament. Which one is more important? Is a single set more important than trying to win the tournament? What is more important, trying to win a set or trying to win a tournament? In my opinion, it's a tournament. And while I don't have any negative feelings towards Vinch, I think people need to get their priorities in order when talking about this. Sitaux did what any competitive player should do, and it's try to win the tournament. So I think the hate against Sitaux is unwarranted. He did his best to win Warlords 4. That's the goal. That's what the admins wanted. That's the environment they created. If you want to put more emphasis on the sets, do what T90 does and put money for the sets, for the games. He puts money for the games. You win a game, you get a certain amount of money. So I don't blame Sitaux at all. He did his best to win. And to do that, he needed to sacrifice a set. Would I have done it? I don't know. I'm not a competitive player. I am a sports scientist. Would I tell one of my players to do it? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would have. How would they feel about it? I don't know. And I'd obviously have to consider the personality of the player. What are their values? But if we're just trying to win, mate, we're trying to win gold. Yeah, we're not trying to... I don't care how we get there, as long as we do it within the rules. Let's get there. So Sitaux didn't cheat. He played within the rules. Unfortunately, there's no perfect format. I would say the Swiss system is the best option. The Swiss system is self-seeding. The blue holes within it allows you to account for player performance in that tournament, and it means that you need to try to win and win well to progress in the best way possible. Right? The Swiss system on its own is not enough. The progression is important as well. So in the Swiss system, I would love to see first actually play fourth and second versus third in the finals. And first, the winners of those games go get a break, and the losers of those games play the winners of 8v5 and 7v6. I think that would be a good way to do it. I think currently they do 1v8, and I don't really like that. So and that's a way to get more sets, but each set still has meaning. Each set still has a reward. Each set still has a consequence. I've already said a lot about how the system they use needs more games and they didn't have enough. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I have a little thing I'm reading off. And I just want to tick things off in order to make sure I don't forget anything. This is not a very entertaining video, nor is the production value high. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. What could the admins have done in the situation that they were given? Now, obviously, I have my issues with the situation happening at all. I would have said, mate, just be better when you create the format. But what could they have done in the situation? A lot of people are saying, let Vinchester and Sitaux choose their opponent. I can see that reasoning, but then I wonder if you're Hera or DauT or Mihai or ACCM, do you want that? They're the players who finished higher. Now, we've spoken about how the format might not be the best at picking who finishes higher, but they're the players who finished higher. And now the players who are finishing lower get to choose. It seems odd. And obviously one of those players, ACCM or Mihai, came third, so the whole higher lower thing doesn't work. But I don't think the solution is letting the winner of this set choose their path. If anything, I think Hera should have been able to choose his bracket, and then the next player and the next player and the next player. But how do you rank those first in the group stage players? We've spoken about the need for more sets for viewership. Guess what? Get the top finishers from all the groups to play against each other to decide who's going to get first pick at their bracket. There's a reward. You get first pick. There's a consequence if you get last pick. So these sets now have meaning. And so players are hopefully motivated to play them. I think that's a lot better than just having a round robin for round robin's sake. There's a lot of creativity missing from the formatting of Age of Empires tournaments. It's very much about motivation and incentivizing players and punishing players. And if you can crack that code, which I mean, I don't like to preach to qualifications, but I learned it in sports science how to do that, how to structure a tournament, how to make sure things stay competitive while also staying fair, and balancing that grey area. So I think there are definitely ways around it where you don't just need to be lazy and say round robin, group stage. Instead of properly allocating the players, we're just going to draw them out of a hat. There are better ways to do things, and ways that you can monetize, ways that you can generate interest, ways that you can generate discussion, positive discussion, and ways that you can generate viewership and marketing as well. So I think that's something we need to mature at in a scene and evolve and develop. Again, no format's perfect. I want to make sure that that's clear. We could have these situations in other formats. We also talk about, did Sitaux try his best? Sitaux threw that set to try to win the tournament, and a lot of people are hating on him for it. But nobody hates on DauT for hiding a strategy in the group stage because he wants to use it later. I didn't want to call him out there, but he's been very vocal on Twitter, so I feel like that's something, we could talk about where, DauT is very vocal and, he's lost respect for Sitaux. That's what he said on Twitter for throwing that game, but Sitau's trying to win the tournament. And throwing that set is the best way to do it. Just like DauT, hiding your strategies in the group stage is the best way to do it. You're not trying your best if you're hiding strategies. Or are you trying your best? But you're trying your best to win the tournament instead of trying to win each and every game that you play. think it's something to think about. That doesn't really wrap up everything I have to say on the topic, but it's definitely a good starter, and it's a 25-minute video, so I'll stop it there. If this gets any traction, we can do a part 2. Answer any questions in the comments. Obviously, these are my opinions. I'm not an authority on anything, but I did put a post up on the Facebook group. YouTube won't let me put a link in the description right now because of the channel so new, but this is a Facebook group we have going where we talk all things competitive. I've got a Sydney LAN going soon. Sign up. I'll probably go to that most likely as a spectator. I don't want to clog that tournament up with me playing. And there's also another LAN going on in Sweden. So if you want to have a look at those two, feel free. Let's get Sydney cranking, and hopefully Sweden gets cranking as well. But I did ask to see if anyone had any comments, and Haresh, hopefully I pronounced that right, active member, rising contributor of the community. He's got his thoughts. So word for word, you could see it on the screen, but he's saying that there's no reason to blame Sitaux. Every set should matter, and winning it should give an advantage for the winner as they move forward in the tournament. Any set that doesn't improve the player's chances at the next stage is redundant, like the third place match, and there's absolutely no reason to blame the players who gave up too early or did troll strategies. I agree with most of what he said. I think it's hard to make sure every set matters. Most formats don't have that, but I think you can definitely reduce the amount that happens. I think that it's certainly what's a big red flag is a player losing being beneficial. I think that's really bad. Like, a dead rubber is one thing, incentivizing losing is another. And I disagree that third place is irrelevant. I personally, like, if we could incentivize players to try in third place, then that would be a very important game. What we're struggling with is incentivizing it. So what I think we need is a bigger split between the prize money for third and fourth. And once we get them, we need to find, okay, is $100 difference enough? Is 200? Is 400? Is 500? Is 1,000? What does the prize split need to be for third place matches to matter? Because the reason they don't matter is because players don't try. If players were trying, they'd be a very, very important set. It's also not the fault of his second point, sorry. We'll go through that now, read it verbatim, and then we'll go from there. It's also not the fault of the host. Except a single elimination system, every other format will have edge cases where some of the last round sets are either obsolete or can be advantageous for the losing player. This is because of upsets. In this case, Mihai Bals were the easier opponent, even though they had won their sets against ACCM and Yo. We'll keep reading. The only way to avoid this is doing a random bracket draw for the quarterfinals. This still might not fix the problem, but could reduce the chances of someone throwing their set to get a better bracket. Mostly agree with what he said, right? There's no perfect system. Single elimination might be better. I think double elimination is pretty good as well. Random bracket draw, we spoke about increasing the randomness. If you're going to have random drawing for groups, then you need more randomness throughout the format. So that could be a way to do it, but I don't know. I'd like winning to be the reason you get an advantage, not randomization, unless something like Hidden Cup is coming into play, which is totally random, and it works well because it's totally random. There's enough randomization, enough to remove the bias. His third point. Then the question becomes, why not single elimination? Because that's too cutthroat and isn't fair for upcoming players who put a lot of effort to qualify for the main event. Also limits the number of sets and content for viewers. hit the nail on the head. I think Swiss system is the way to go. I think it should be the standard, and I think if you deviate from that standard, World's Edge needs to be a lot more stringent on how they allocate money, and you need to prove your format if you're not using the Swiss system. That's the only comment about the situation from this post, so we'll stop it there. Thank you everyone for listening if you made it this far. Half an hour of me dribbling. Sorry it wasn't as, honestly it wasn't as high quality as I would have liked it to be. I do have high standards. I have done some other content creation. This certainly wasn't up to scratch. In terms of speaking. In terms of the video, that's the best you're going to get. I'm not very good at video editing, nor am I good at graphic design, so as long as I can convey my information, that's all that matters as a scientist. So that's all I'm really doing. Thank you for listening. I don't know if this is going to be regular. I'm going to hope to do it. I'm going back to uni. So let's see if I have time to do that. But it's been great speaking to you. Please, again, leave your questions, leave your thoughts in the comments. And maybe we do a part 2. Maybe we do a video on something else. And this was fun, even though it wasn't as high quality as I wanted it to be. See you later. Bye.